So Ron Barron, the billionaire investor known for being a Tesla Uber bull, just came out a few days ago saying that he thinks Tesla stock will keep rising over time and its market capitalization can grow from its current $630 billion to as much as $4 trillion in 10 years. He also shared his advice on the best way to invest and to think about picking stocks. With Barron Capital currently owning about $4 billion of Tesla stock, he's looking for massive wins if his forecast proves to be correct. So today we've got Sat joining us. He's an extremely long-term investor in Tesla and has been attending every single shareholder meeting that Tesla's ever had. Thank you, Sat, for joining me and telling me. I think that Ron, Barron, and you guys have the similar kind of investment approach, and that's why I wanted to ask you this question. Welcome.
Hi, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start first with watching this clip of Ron Barron, as he was just very recently interviewed, and then we'll get your reaction to that.
Stock and the U.S. consumer.
I met Elon in 2010. It took me 4 years of doing research before we ultimately decided to invest. And we invested between 2014 and 2016. We invested a total of approximately $400 million, $380 million. In 3 years is when we were buying the stock, and that was it. And the average price, and we've made about 20 times our money since then. We made at the peak, and we probably made about $5.5 billion in profits so far, and I think we'll make another 5 times in the next 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years. What made us buy it is that he's a mission-driven person. His idea was to try to convert the United States, the world, from using petrol to using electricity. I thought initially it was unlikely he'd be successful. That's when I met him in 2010. 2014, I had become convinced he would become successful. And we invested approximately 2% of our assets at that time, 2% of the $21 or $22 billion that we had under management. We now have about $41 billion. And of the $41 billion, $40 billion is profits that we made for our clients over the past, since 1992. So basically, we invested because I thought there was a big upside. I thought he was a brilliant guy. I still think that. We continue to work on our research in this company all the time. Virtually every week, we're talking to someone there. I was out in Palo Alto a week ago, and I was there for an afternoon, and I met with 2 executives who were the people who were in charge of autonomous driving and also in charge of compute, of what NVIDIA does, the chips. So what we're always doing, we're trying to understand how a business operates and what's special about it and why other people can't do the same thing. And in the case of Tesla, we are convinced that people cannot do what they're doing, and that ultimately it's not just going to be a car company, it's not just going to be a battery company, but ultimately all the other car companies, which 50 years ago elected to become much more profitable and outsource supplies and compute to other people, we're going to be, like Intel was inside of computers, this is going to be Tesla inside of cars. All the cars are going to be using Tesla autonomous driving. No one else can possibly compete.
Yeah, it's great he's doing these interviews. I love his philosophy. That's how I invest long-term investments, 10 years, 15 years out. And I actually, watched him because I've been following Tesla since 2006. And I watched him in the news in 2013. So it was really great to hear there's a huge investor in Tesla and believing in Elon. So it was, it took him a while. It took him about 4 years. I had been following Tesla for at least 5 years prior to investing. So I didn't initially do that the IPO because they didn't have a factory at that moment. So once you see that they have a factory, they have something producing, and he got the inside tour. So all the more reason why I was kind of really baffled at first why he didn't do it the first time, because he got a personal tour. So, but I'm glad he's on board. And what he's saying about Tesla is very true, is that in the long term, the mission speaks for itself, and that's what's going to drive it. Going to 4 trillion, I think, is going to be a matter of time. It used to be something that's kind of like out there. People think that's crazy. When Elon first said that, it sounded kind of crazy, but it's not, because Apple hit 1 trillion a few years back, 4 or 5 years ago. And they said, oh, 1 trillion is going to be really difficult. Once they hit it, it's like, oh, it's not going to go anywhere after that. Well, right now it's closing in on 3 trillion. So for Apple to do that, and they didn't have anything seismic change in terms of their products. They did, they have some more new products, accessories and stuff, but nothing revolutionary per se, that paradigm shift. I think Tesla's doing stuff that is paradigm shift related in multiple businesses, and it hasn't even come to fruition yet. So Tesla Energy, AI, and the bot and stuff. So I think it's a matter of time. I think 4 trillion is actually undervaluing it. If it's in 10 years, I think it's going to be more than 4 trillion. But I think 4 trillion is very much durable because we even see it existing in today it's very close to that. So for Apple. So I think that comparatively, it's a bigger market for Tesla.
Okay, Seth. So that was fantastic because you are also yourself a long-term investor. You saw the opportunity even before Ron Barron did. I thought it was interesting that he actually said that he waited 4 years before investing in it. So I just realized that clip that I played did not actually have the comment he made about being a long-term investor, nor the 4 trillion. So I'm going to play that now, and then we can talk about all this at this point.
The way I think about it is that the investments that I have are investments for the long term in businesses where I think we're going to double our money over a period of time. Instead of 10 years, we're going to try to double our money every 5 years, 5 or 6 years. How do we do it? Instead of investing in companies that grow 7 or 8% a year, we're investing in companies that grow 15% plus a year. And then we have a mix. Some of these companies that we're investing in, like a Tesla or like a SpaceX, can grow very, very rapidly, but they're riskier. So we offset that risk by having investments in companies like Vail, which has or Hyatt, real estate companies, resort companies, financial companies like Charles Schwab.
Ron, I think that this buy and hold concept of a concentrated portfolio has worked for you, and it seems to have worked in these markets. Is there another Tesla that you're looking for, or another sector that you think the next Tesla could come from?
I think SpaceX has a chance to be even bigger than Tesla in the 2030s. And that's saying a lot, because I think Teslas can go from being worth 600 or 700 billion now to being worth $4.5 trillion in 10 years. And in SpaceX, by 2030, can be worth 500 billion, 600 billion. And I think that ultimately it can be bigger than Tesla. So that's one area. You don't find a lot of these companies. And therefore, when you find them, you better keep them. So most of these companies, they're doing better than the stock market, which is how come we outperform the stock market.
Comments, Seth?
Yeah, I love his philosophy. I follow that kind of philosophy, the buy and hold, relative concentrated portfolio. I think that's how you can actually do very well. Also, having to manage it every second of the day. And I'm glad there's someone like him, because there's very few people who manage a large fund who think that way and take it in that sense of like 10 years out. And that thinking is very much more important. That actually helps stabilize the stock market if more people would think that way. And so I think, him saying the way that they work and how much they're willing to become, and that how much more they have more to grow, I think says a lot. Especially, he's had a lot of tours and conversations with him, with Elon and so forth in the past. And I didn't realize that he had bigger investment in SpaceX than even in Tesla. So that says a lot about the conviction that he has. He doesn't come to conviction that easily. He has to take his time to do his research and get there. But even the large amount of money that he put in, it was still only 2% of his portfolio. If my calculus is correct, that's probably closer to 20% of his portfolio now of Tesla, because he said it's done 20x. So that's quite a bit of growth, and yet he's still willing to hold on for another 10 years. So if that doesn't tell you conviction, like someone that's put in significantly more money, yeah, that's quite a bit of confidence. And it makes sense why, because he's seeing even just the FSD portion of it, and how much that's going to become a bigger part of Tesla's business. But he hasn't even covered the rest of the stuff that your channel often covers, the AI side and the bots and the dojo stuff. So there's a lot more exciting stuff that's coming. It's just, I think there's a certain level of impatience, and then the discrepancy between the economic climate and the stock price, and what the company is actually accomplishing.
Yeah, so I love what he does. It's the same philosophy I have. You do. It's rare to find a company like a Tesla, like an Apple. He said the next Tesla is actually SpaceX. that can grow 15% per year and has, potential outsized, multiples that can do because it's so innovative. His confidence that it's going to hit to 4 trillion by 2030, because many people are telling me that's crazy talk. Don't even talk that like that. You're just, it makes you sound like you're an Uber bull. I actually don't have price targets. I don't want to say these things, but if everything is out of the park, we just saw Elon himself say, reply back to this tweet that to reply to Ron's statement that it can be 4 trillion. Elon himself said that I think we can do this if we hit everything out of the park, was kind of like what he had replied to this tweet. So both Elon thinks he can do it, Ron Barron thinks we can do it. So hopefully that happens.
The other part is that I've been reading the biography for Elon's biography, and one thing is that Warren Buffett said that nobody else can do what Tesla can do. It makes sense why, because the thinking behind the entire business, especially for SpaceX, like Elon questioned the actual standards in which they operated, and that was also the same for the Tesla, for the car manufacturing. You had to question why things are the way they are, and then say maybe that those standards need to be changed so that we can make it more efficiently, cheaper and faster. And nobody's doing that as good as Tesla is. And I think Rivian's finding out really fast that they kind of have to do that in order to make a completely new platform in the EV side to actually make sure that they make money on per unit basis. And they're not right now. They're getting closer to it, but Tesla's always been ahead of that from the very beginning. Yeah. And that's because Elon always thought that way. And reading the biography, it's very clear that they would shave off a whole digit, like 1/10 the cost. That's not something that you can do just on a flip of a switch. You have to rethink the entire process. And Tesla's done that on the car manufacturing side, which is the reason why you can't do the same thing as Tesla by just trying to do, you see it outside, here's a vehicle, we just make an EV. No, it doesn't work that way. It's everything from the supply chain that's completely different. And that's the reason that they can produce the vehicle at such great gross margin and still move forward with it in a climate where people don't want to buy. So the other car manufacturers are basically splicing together the way it is, a bunch of suppliers, bunch of software developers of different companies. And you wonder why they can't make a profit on these vehicles in any significant amount. So if you're going to do the same process, you have to really think the whole paradigm of the platform and the manufacturing within itself of the entire industry. And nobody has the leadership and the intelligence and the will to be able to do that and withstand that. And it's showing so much in that part of it. It's not the execution that people don't have the ability in the industry. They're great. The legacy OEMs are great at production. It's just that the leadership has to make a huge difference and change the mindset, and they're not willing to risk the short-term profits to do that. And that's why Elon has famously said he doesn't care about the short-term stock price. Like, he doesn't care about that stuff because he's willing to look at the bigger picture and change the actual way they're producing it. And that's evident in the Cybertruck. I think Cybertruck is kind of like the epitome of all the three platforms combined in making the changes, from the architecture, from the unboxing method to manufacturing, the vehicle design. So it's kind of like every platform is going to step up further and further in terms of like the amount of change that they're willing to do and then rethink the entire process. Like this production is going to be completely different from what it was from prior, even, and they explained in Investor Day as well. So that thinking is not something that they can implement in a system that's been there for 100 years. So that's why Tesla can do what Tesla can and other people can't. And I think I like what Ron Barron was alluding to, that whole management system and what Elon's put in place and the way he thinks. You can't think that way without making some kind of riff with the current standard of doing things. So that's the reason why Tesla's ahead, not just because they're really great at executing something. It's because their thinking is completely different. And there's other OEMs, they're great at production. Their thinking is that's not in the right place because Tesla came along and changed the whole setup now. And so you have to keep up with that thinking, and a lot of them aren't able to do it. And I think there are very few that are going to be able to make it with a lot of damage first for the short-term profits to be able to get there. And whichever, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a second place OEM there, but it's going to be very far from Tesla because Elon's there and he can make that switch. And it's one of the things that I remember very early on. One of the other executives said the reason why Tesla can move so fast is because Elon says right, we're going to go right. If we go left, we're going to go left. And none of the other companies can do that. None of the other ones can do it. They have to have committee meetings. They have to go convince the board. They have to do all this stuff. No, if Elon says we're going to go one direction, you're going to go that direction. So that's a strength of Elon. And so I don't know how many critics that Elon always has to deal with, but you don't understand that core part of why Tesla is so good at what they're doing and the direction they can move. Because if there's a problem, he's going to fix it. And Tesla's done a great job in doing that.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com. Thank you so much, Sat. I mean, basically, it's what Ron has been saying, which is it's very rare to find a company like a Tesla that comes once in a generation, because it has to have all the things you just said, right? From leadership to process to focus on deleting and cost reduction, but yet be a completely innovative company. So this makes me feel better. I've got to think long-term. Don't be so distracted by the short-term moves, but it looks like things are still moving in the absolute right direction. And it's really the company. So it's not just Elon, but the whole company that he invented that's being successful. So thank you very much, Sat. Please follow him at X at SA_futurist. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.